Well, welcome, friends. Welcome to another episode. And I'm really excited about the conversation that we are going to be having today. You guys, you are going to love this. You know me, I am all about networking and connections. And so is our guest, Michael Foreman. Michael, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Same. Well, you guys, a little behind the scenes. So, Michael and I was actually just recently on his podcast, which is a great one. So, definitely we'll put that in the show notes and you can mention that as well. But I'm going to read his bio. And then I have a really good question for Michael because we had this really great conversation behind the scenes about what it looks like to ask better questions. And we actually talked about this on his podcast. So, you'll want to go listen to that episode. But I have a really good question for Michael as we start off. So, here you're going to learn a little bit about him. But Michael Foreman, he is a celebrated corporate speaker and networking strategist. So he is my people, you guys. He is our people, right? He is best known as the author of Networking Unleashed, with a reputation for turning networking into practical and profitable art form. Michael delivers dynamic presentations that empower individuals and organizations to achieve greater success. He's a Desert Storm veteran. Michael, thank you so much for your service and for sharing just your life and just for the cost that I'm sure that was for us as Americans, but also his leadership and service. They are a cornerstone of his impactful speaking style, which you guys were also going to dive into speaking as well. Okay, so you guys are going to love this episode. But Michael actually resides in Cumming, Georgia, with his wife and two sons, and you can definitely learn more about him at michaelaforeman.com. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to share you with our listeners.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Okay, so you ready for the question?
I'm all set for you.
Okay, so now we obviously heard all this amazing stuff that you are up to, but knowing what you know now, what do you wish you could go back and tell your younger self?
I would definitely go back and tell myself to listen more intently to other people.
Mm.
I was caught in that wagon of thinking that, okay, what's the next thing that I have to say, and let me just, I have to get it out, otherwise they won't understand what I'm selling. And that was the completely wrong mindset. I
Yeah.
have to have active listening. I have to listen with a purpose. And if you listen to somebody, you have to pause afterwards, because that pause becomes so important, because that tells the other person you're listening to them. And then, ready? You respond to what they were saying, not the next thing that you want to say.
Yeah.
So if I had to go back and tell myself, say, whoa, slow down, Michael, and listen to the other person.
I love that so much. And I feel like active listening is such an important skill in a world where there is so much noise, in a world where everyone is moving a million miles an hour. I feel like it's this lost art form. So, what are some tips that you might have when it comes to active listening? I love what you said about the purposeful listening.
Yes. Well, let's say you're going to a networking event and you walk through the door, and what do you see? You're bombarded with people, all these people at tables and talking and everything else. Where do you begin? Well, it's a very easy concept, because when you walk up to a table, and I'm saying a table has 4 to 5 people around it talking, a conversation going, you walk up, and the trick is, don't say a word. You don't say a word, because you listen for the conversation. Is this a conversation that I want to be part of or not? Now, if it's not, you haven't said anything yet. So you can very easily bow out very politely, go to the next table. If it is a conversation you want to be a part of, wait for the conversation to come around to you and say something hopefully intelligent. Okay, you're not just babbling. You're going to this event as the professional in your whatever, in your industry. Okay, so you have to say something interesting enough where at least one, two, or even three people turn around and respond to what you had to say. And the trick is to have the other people speak, they talk. Because look, you know as well as I do, people love to talk about themselves. So you let them talk. Let them talk and talk and talk. And I have something called form, FORM, for when I am talking with them: family, occupation, recreation, and a message. And pick any one of the above, and just is that your husband, wife, sister, brother, son, daughter, whatever? Is that your occupation? Ask them about questions about their occupation or recreation. Do you like to ski? Do you like to boat? Do you like to play baseball? Whatever. And you get them talking about themselves and about what they do. And at the end of it, before you even identify what you do for a living, you say, you know something? I like you. I like what you do and how you do it. How can I make you more successful? How can I be a good referral source for you? That usually blows them away. But if you go in with the thought of giving instead of receiving, you'll do a lot better.
That's so good. I love that. It's kind of the concept that we share about, which is right in line with what you're talking about, is being the most interested person in the room instead of the most interesting person in the room.
Right, right.
So I would love to hear a little bit about your story, because obviously as an author, as a keynote speaker, as an expert in the networking industry, what got you into networking and connection in the first place? And then I'm
Oh,
gonna kind of have a follow-up question. What were maybe the things that you did wrong to learn how to do it right and to do it well?
well, we can spend about 3 hours on how many times I've done something wrong.
Oh, you and me
Okay,
both.
because
You and
I went to the school of hard knocks. Okay, I had to do things wrong 10 times
me
before I figured out the right way to do it. But my networking skills really began when I was in the Air Force, where I was a higher rank than somebody, but the other people were older than I was. And I had to tell them what to do. But you
Yeah.
have to tell them what to do in such a way where they don't get teed off, you know? So that was one way. When I was just speaking to them, I was beginning my networking journey without even realizing it.
Yeah.
But then I went into my own businesses. I had pizzerias, restaurants. I had a graphic design studio. I had, I was able to talk to my employees, my customers, and my vendors. I was trying to get the same thing out of all of them, but I had to talk to all of them in a different way.
Mm.
So that brought me up even more. But fast forward to the last 15 years, I went into the mortgage business. I built the business from a nothing to we had 15 loan officers. It was a fairly large company. And I started becoming the face of the company. I did all the seminars. I did all the first time home buyer. I did everything. And I was beginning to network. I was beginning to speak and go on stages and speak. When I came down to Georgia, I worked for a law firm and I was a sales director for them. And again, I began to speak. So I said, you know something? There's something to this. I think I'm going to do this on my own. So what do I know best? I know best how to get the most out of somebody, put people together. I do that more so than anything else. I take two people, you need this person needs that. I put you together and I walk away. So I'm like the referral guy.
Yeah, the natural
And
connector.
yeah, it's just natural and it works out so much better.
I love
Um
that.
as
What?
far as far as doing things the wrong way,
Yeah.
like I said, I can go on for 3 hours to tell you everything I've done wrong. But the biggest thing is I'm going to go back to my active listening. The biggest thing I did wrong was I didn't listen to the other person. Now my prospective clients, but I wasn't listening.
Hmm. That's really good. I want to go back to something that you said that kind of intrigues me. I think it could be a really good conversation. But you mentioned in kind of in the, when you were kind of this business owner and you had to learn how to talk to different people differently, whether it was, your employees or your vendors or your customers. I would love to maybe draw out from you any tips on what that could look like to talk differently to different people. And I want to kind of frame this from the point of, I think sometimes people get hung up on, oh, well, if I have to talk differently to different people, I'm not being authentic to myself, compared to, oh, actually, it's just maybe a different flavor or a different facet or a different aspect of myself. So I would love to hear your thoughts on what you learned on how to be able to communicate effectively to different people.
Well, you don't change who you are.
Yeah.
You always be that authentic self. But as far as employees go, your employee can't be that super nice, 100% friendly, everything to everybody if you're not good to your employees. So you have to first and foremost be good to your employees, have your employees say, great, I'm going to work today. This is fantastic. I'm going to go and get to do this instead of saying, oh, all right, I'm going to go punch the clock and I have to go and I just have to do this. Because if they are not happy, how can they be happy to your customers? So that's the first thing that I learned in being my own boss. I had to make sure. Now you have to watch out for the employees to take advantage of that. So you have to really, find that middle road, and you have to speak to your customers. You have to listen. Customer service is everything, and you have to go above and beyond, 10 steps ahead of where you were for customer service. But if it was a confrontation with your employee, there's a saying that the customer's always right. I don't believe that,
Mhm.
right? Because I believe in my employee, and I'm thinking of one specific time that this really came true, where they were yelling and screaming, and they said, "No, look, Mike, that's not the way it happened. This is the way it happened." And one or two other people backed her story up. So I very nicely explained to the customer how they should act and react and everything else. And if they don't really like the way we serve, the door is open.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't have to pay for anything. You can just go and we'll still be friends. And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, no, 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 no. I understand. Everything's okay. Let's just eat. And most of the time they don't come back, but even still, only one time, the person get excited. So you have to be behind your employees. When I was I'll tell you, I'm going to a little backstory. When I was in the Air Force, I was taught to make a decision, right or wrong, because I was a police officer in the Air Force. So I had to really make those decisions, right or wrong. But
Yeah.
my sergeant always said, listen, make a decision. If you're wrong, we'll back you up. We'll fix it. Okay, but make a decision. You're not making a decision will harm you more than help you.
Right.
So I've taught myself, taught my employees, taught everybody. From that point on, that's how I act and react.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good because I actually feel like that goes into what we believe is the culture of empowerment. Actually, I'm sure you've heard the saying of everything rises and falls on leadership. But I think that some people take that in a way that everything rises and falls on the leader. And so I don't have to take any responsibility or anything for my part in the whatever, because that's the leaders. It's there. Everything rises and falls on them, compared to what we believe in creating a culture of empowerment where I actually am delegating responsibility, like what you said, like make a decision and I will walk alongside you as a leader as the results or the consequences or the great things that come out of that decision that you made as a powerful person. So I love that you said that.
You just described almost perfectly what a leader is as opposed to being a boss.
Yeah.
So you can be a boss and sit there and shout all the orders you want and expect them all to do what you say. But a leader empowers the people under him to become leaders.
Yeah.
So that is the sign of a true leader.
Oh, yeah, I love that. That's so good. We have a saying of when you delegate tasks, you create followers, but when you delegate responsibility, you create leaders. So,
Absolutely.
so
100%.
so good. Well, I want to go back to actually just a quick little thought that I had about when you were sharing about authentic self and like being authentic. And I agreed, you don't change who you are. And I think sometimes people, and this can go into networking, so I would love to hear your thoughts on this, but sometimes people can mistake the getting out of their comfort zone and feeling uncomfortable or feeling a little clunky in something with it not being authentic, right? Oh, like, oh, that felt really uncomfortable. It's not authentic to me. Or I'm not really great at asking questions that, or the networking thing, it's out of my comfort zone. So it's not authentic to me. And I don't really, right? Compared to authenticity is this thing where you actually have done something enough that it starts to feel natural and it starts to look natural. And people are like, oh, that's so authentic to you. Or like, that looks so easy to you. But it actually has taken practice to get there. And you haven't gotten to get through the clunkiness of it.
Yeah. Networking is like anything else. You have to practice, practice, practice. Now, what you just described before was an introvert because you have introverts and you have extroverts. And everything I've been talking about is about being an extrovert. Listen, I love going to networking events. I love talking to people. I love interacting with people. But an introvert has a fear. And I have a very easy solution for an introvert. And because I was in the Air Force, I call it having a wingman. And it's very simple. When you go to that networking event, listen, I always say go alone because you don't want any distractions. But if you're an introvert, you bring along somebody that knows you extremely well, that knows what you do extremely well. So when you walk up to that table, you do all the same things. You wait for the conversation to come back around to you. And if it's something that you want to talk about, your wingman will say, you know what? Michael here knows all about widgets. As a matter of fact, he knows it more than anybody else. Michael, what do you think about that? And then I would be introduced, and that would be kind of my buffer system, and I wouldn't have to come out and say it. And if you do that enough times, if you practice, 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 if you practice it enough times, by the second, third, fourth, or even fifth networking event, you'll see that you can fly solo.
Hey, just a quick little invitation here for you to give one of my new favorite products a try. It's called Glossy. And if you know anything about me, that you know that I love to share things that I love. I love to talk about the things that I love that I'm using, whether it's new products, new services, fun books that I'm sharing about. So I'm always on the hunt for new products that help with high performance, that help me not only as a business owner, as a founder, as a speaker, as a podcaster, and even as a mom feel better, but it's got to be able to fit into my daily routine. And I have found one that is like my new obsession. It's called Glossy. It's a skin and a gut daily ritual supplement. It's a skin routine that you can drink. Not only does it taste amazing, like a light, refreshing lemon spa water that I could drink all day, seriously, but it's making me feel so recharged and like I'm feeding my body and skin everything it needs to keep up with me and my goals. It has a clinically studied probiotic in it that survives the trip to your gut so that you know that it's working, along with hyaluronic acid, which is incredible for glowy, hydrated look to your skin. And on top of that, it's loaded with skin-loving ingredients like zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, coconut water, coconut water powder, minerals, electrolytes, and antioxidants. It's how I love to actually start my day as well as end my day, because when I wake up in the morning, I actually get the feeling that I feel less bloated, which, hello, is amazing. So for real, this is a game changer, especially if you travel, if you're busy, and if you have to have something that help you support your body while you are going after your big ideas. So if you want glowing skin and a happy gut, go grab your subscription, because it's the best results take 30 to 60 days. You can go to getglowsy.com. That's GETGLOCI.com, and use my coupon code CharityMajors for an awesome discount. Now, understand that this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. But again, that's all the official legal stuff, right? Go to getglowsy.com and grab your skin and gut supplement, because great skin starts from within. That's at getglowsy, GETGLOCI.com, and use my coupon code CharityMajors. Grab your subscription today. You are going to love it. I have no doubt. Go to getglowsy.com and use the coupon code CharityMajors. Now back to the show.
I love that. So introverts listening to this, you guys have no excuse. Bring your wingman. I love that. Now I want to go into, from when we read your bio, you talked about how you leverage networking to be practical and profitable. Now, I'd love to kind of expand on this conversation for a few minutes before we dive into some speaking stuff, because I also think that the most effective way to network is to be the speaker in the room. But anyway, we can get into that for a second.
Right.
But I want to go into this like, okay, so someone's listening to this. We obviously have networking chapters. We help people connect. We've, like you, we've got a networking book. And so what does it look like for you on maybe some strategies that you have to be able to turn those connections into those profitable relationships where there is an ROI for both parties, right? Like for you, and I know you talked about being a natural connector, but I would love for you to expand on the practical and the profitable side of networking.
Well, that's a fantastic question, because when you want to work into your networking, and you could be networking with, let's say, 50 people, you start with the soft connect. I'm a big LinkedIn person. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, those are my channels. But the LinkedIn is really for business.
Yeah.
So you want to connect with that person. And then when let's say it's a roofing company and you want to do some business with that roofing company, you find an article that would be interesting to that person within the roofing company. You cut out that article, you attach it to you, because you've already connected with them, and you say, look, I just picked up this article. It's very interesting. It's about metal roofs as opposed to asphalt roofs. What do you think? And it's a very good article. But by the way, I did this because I did this myself with a roofing company. And he in return, he's going to say, this was very interesting, or this is very interesting, I'm going to look into it. And that is the beginning of your relationship. And soon enough, or you're going to do it enough where he's going to say, well, or why don't you say, why don't we go out for a cup of coffee? Or why don't we just have lunch somewhere? And then that's where you can, because you have to go in again as the expert in your field, and you have the answers to his questions. You are a problem solver. You must be a problem solver, because otherwise, why would they want you? So you are going to give him an answer or a solution to his problem. Once you start doing that, you're going to start doing business, and that's where the profit starts coming in. And it goes along a bit more than that, but that's the best way to begin. Whether their favorite social media is LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, find their best way to get hold of them and start that.
Yeah, I love that. That's so great. Now I want to go back into what we were talking about, how another really great, effective way to network very easily is to also be the speaker in the room. I know it's where I've gone into places where, of course, I'm going to network and connect and that kind of a thing. And then just as a participant. And then I've also gone into other rooms where I'm the speaker and then everyone comes to me, which is way easier. So I would love to hear just your journey of, okay, you started these businesses and you started hosting workshops in the mortgage industry and all this different stuff. And now it has evolved into you being this networking expert who also speaks corporately on all of this stuff. So what was that journey like for you?
The journey, well, I would say if I said it was rocky, you would think that I wasn't successful in what I was speaking about. But when I say rocky, I mean ups and downs.
Yeah.
So you have plenty of ups and downs, and sometimes you feel you might be the speaker, and I've given first time home buyer seminars to two people.
Yeah.
Okay, so but you don't change what you say.
Yeah.
All right, so now I've given talks to 3, 4, 500 people, and you don't change. You have to change it. You have to change your voice volumes because you're speaking towards the back of the room, but you have to really figure out what you're saying because you're not just talking to the people in the room, you're talking to their network of people that they're associated with.
Yeah.
So you might be, and this has happened to me, of course, but I've talked to a room of like 50 or 60 people, and about 3 weeks later, well, a friend of mine heard you speak at this place. I want to talk to you. So okay, that means that what I spoke about resonated with them. They spoke to a friend, and a friend needed my services.
Yeah.
But that's how you have to think about it because you're speaking and you have to be self-deprecating. You have to make fun, tell stories, keep them engaged. And if you make it fun, then you'll get a lot more out of it.
That's so good. It's the whole concept of uh, going from being involved in the room to leading the room. And I think that is really, there's an element here that I would love for you to expand on. But what has being a speaker, and for you with your book, Networking Unleashed, now becoming an author, what has that done from an influence standpoint or from an expertise standpoint? Because at least for me in my journey, I remember where it was, okay, I was in business and I was trying to do the email automation and trying to beat the algorithm and trying to create all this content and trying to do a 6-figure launch and like build the funnel and all of these things. But I remember hearing this concept of what one of my mentors, Russell Brunson, he calls it the big domino. And in all of these other business things, the email automations and funnels and social media and content, all this stuff, these are what are called little dominoes. And you're trying to like knock over all these little dominoes when it comes to standing out in business, becoming an expert, being known as that subject matter expert, for our girls, like for the category queen, really standing out in their industry. And it's this big domino that actually makes all those other little dominoes way easier is showing up as an author, as a speaker with media, with media appearances and the fun little like ABC and featured in NBC and Business Insider and Forbes and all of this fun stuff. So I would love to hear what for you being a speaker, author, I know you mentioned you were in Forbes and you're about to just be published in another couple magazines. So what has that done for you as far as being an industry expert instead of all of the other little dominoes of the freebies and the funnels and the all the other things that we
Well,
have to do in business?
it's funny because you are a person and you have to build your credibility.
Yeah.
You can be the best person. You can be the best of what you do, the best of the best, but who knows about it?
Yeah.
So you have to, it's kind of like I have to. You have to be an author, you have to be a speaker, you have to be written up in a magazine. You have to do that really just for credibility because certain people won't even look at you unless you have these credentials.
Yeah.
So, because before I did all of this, I still knew what I knew. I knew how to go out there, and I was going to my chambers of commerce meetings, and I spoke there, and a Rotary meeting, and I spoke in front of the Rotary. But I there was only very, very local stuff. So I wanted to branch out. I wanted to say, you know something, I should take this on the road. I should be able to go to conferences, seminars. I should go to major companies, do workshops. But how are they going to find out about me? So I had to go through the credibility. I was written up in 4 magazines. I have 2 more coming out. I wrote the book. I have to have the podcast. So all of these things are building my credibility. And so now I'm actually getting the phone calls saying, I'd like to speak to you to come talk to this or that, or, and so it's a whole different feel. Now, I'm not saying I don't have to work for it because 5 hours a day, I'm still going out there and trying to look for speaking opportunities, um, colleges, universities, high schools, uh, workshops. I've done more workshops than anything else because it seems that businesses say, oh, wait a second, you're going to teach all my people how to speak to other people? That's what I want.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I one more example. I spoke to this company out in Ohio, and there's about 30 people there. And I said, who here is a salesman? 4 people raised their hand. I said, why didn't everybody raise their hand? Well, I work in finance. Well, I'm the warehouse worker. I said, okay, wait a second. The owner was sitting in the back. I said, Todd, who here is a salesperson? He looked up and said, everybody.
Everybody.
And I said, that's it. So I don't care if you're working in your finance department or warehouse. And I had the best questions come from the warehouse workers about how they can increase their customer service because that's what all this is. So that's what I'm trying to get out. And so when I go to do other workshops, that's the message that I'm trying to promote.
I love that so much. So it really sounds like just that being an industry expert by speaking, author, being published, that was a real game changer for
It
you.
was.
Yeah, we can have the best, we can be the best whatever business or marketer or photographer or aesthetics or whatever it might be, but if no one knows about it or if we are not seen as an expert by the public eye.
That's exactly correct. Exactly right.
Yeah. So what was your journey like where you knew that it was time for a book or you knew that it was time to start speaking on a larger scale?
About a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, a year and a half ago, I was working for a law firm in Georgia, and I said, you know what? That's it. I'm tired of working for somebody else. I have to go back and because I got a taste of working for myself for like 15 years. And then I worked for somebody and I said, no, 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 this isn't me. It's just not me. So I quit all that and I began looking around I knew how to speak on stages. I knew, but I was just missing that one piece. So I began searching for different speaking academies and things like that. I came across something called the Speaker's Lab, and that was a course. They held my hand basically all the way through the course, and that set me on my journey. Grant Baldwin is the owner of the Speaker Lab, and he is fabulous. He is just the best. And he has the podcast and everything else, but he's been doing this for 15 years. So that set me on my way. Once I was through all that, I began putting the word out. I just published my book last March. Um, and then it just started with the newspaper articles, magazine articles, not newspaper articles, magazine articles. And one thing led to another. I then began my podcast, and everything just came around. And
I
that's it.
love that. Well, I've loved just learning from you and connecting with you. And as a fellow connector and networker, I just appreciate what it is that you're doing. So, Michael, where can people find you, follow you, grab your book, even hire you as a fellow speaker, even bring you to their company to help teach people to be better networkers and better connectors?
Well, the best place to look me up is michaelaforeman.com. That's my website. On the website, you will see the plethora of podcasts that I was on. You'll see how you can pick up. I have a digital course for networking, and you can purchase the digital course through my website. You can buy my book through the website. It's also available on Amazon. But michaelaforeman.com/podcast, you can actually see all my podcasts as well. Everything is there, and you won't be disappointed.
And your podcast is called Networking Unleashed, right?
Networking Unleashed, and
Yes.
it's all there. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, RSS, my website, everywhere.
So great. And that's also the name of his book. So you guys connect with him, ask him really good questions, use that form that he was talking about, connect with him on LinkedIn, grab his book, listen to his podcast. Michael, thank you so much for your time, for your expertise, for a really great conversation. I've loved learning more about you and just hearing your heart to help people be better connectors and better communicators. I share that with you. So go team, we are on a mission together. So thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Charity. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. I hope it brought some value and some fun into your business and life. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and even share the episode with a fellow business bestie who you know will love it. It helps us continue to attract top-level guests and reach more and more women who are on their journey in business just like you. Remember that when money gets in the hands of good women, great things happen. Cheers to your success.